Welcome to Deliciously Motivated Mindset, hosted by Deborah and Moira. This podcast is designed to help listeners unlock their full potential, both personally and professionally, so they can thrive, not just survive. Deborah and Moira explore how natural tendencies don't always serve individuals and provide insights on how to harness existing strengths. Their goal is to equip listeners with the habits, mindset shifts, and strategies needed for lasting, meaningful change. Finding purpose and fulfillment can be challenging, but this podcast offers expert conversations, practical advice, and valuable tools to help align with a true sense of purpose and create a more fulfilling life. So grab a notebook, open your notes app, and get ready to take in some game-changing insights. Let's dive in.
Welcome, dear listeners. Welcome, dear Deb.
Hi.
Hello, my dear. Here we are for another one of our Deliciously Motivated Mindset podcast episode conversations. It's going to be an interesting one. We are going to be talking about embracing an intuitively guided leadership style. And let's face it, we are all leaders in some way in our lives. So this is going to apply to everyone, even if you say, yeah, well, I'm not a leader. I just thought of that. I was like, I'm not a leader. I'm an underling. No, we're all leaders in our own field somehow. So embracing an intuitively guided leadership style. Before we do that, let's just land here and bring our energies together into the present space and time. Just take a nice deep breath in through your nose, pause slightly, and then sigh it out of your mouth. And as you take the next breath, I'd like you to pretend, feel like you're breathing into your heart space. And if you're like me, I've got my hands over my heart space to just really feel like dropping into that space. And now breathe out, sending out your loving energy out into the cosmos. Breathe in, into your heart space. Feeling your physical body expand and contract with your breath, and let it deepen and maybe even slow down just a little bit. Breathing in, breathing out. And you know, this is a really beautiful way to set the intention to listen to your intuition. So breathe into your heart space. And breathe out, feel your feet anchoring you, connecting you to Mother Earth. And take another nice deep breath in. And as you breathe out, intend that you are connecting your energy with me and Deb and everybody else that's listening to this episode. And beyond listening to this episode, connecting all of our loving energy, breathing it in whenever you need it, and sending out whatever amount you can send. And one more nice deep breath, landing here, in this moment, in this space. Feeling calm and soothed, grounded, like you've arrived here in this moment. And now we will gently segue over into talking about tips and ideas to embrace an intuitively guided leadership style. So we encourage you to grab your favored note-taking device, whatever that is for you, and we're going to get into our tips. You and I both lead with intuitive tips and ideas. That's kind of our way of life, isn't it?
Well, it's once you're in, you can't, like, once you put your hand in a pot of glue, some of it sticks.
Yes.
And you can't, and once it sticks, I find you can't go back to the old way. Like,
very true. Yes.
Even when you were talking, what is intuitive leader? Like, what is that intuitively guided leadership? And I started to go, what does that mean for me? What does that represent for me? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And it's sort of, to me, when intuitively leadership meant you're tuning in before taking action.
Yeah, I like that.
And that just, to me, it just gives me a little bit of insight, awareness into things, and or read the room. I would,
Yeah.
but actually tuning into what feels right with your body, because well, I feel like I'm jumbling my words here, but what
Hmm.
does that look like for you? And you Moira will be different to me, which will
Hmm.
be different to Bob and Jenny and Jane and all the people. And if I didn't mention your name, that's okay because I don't know because you don't comment on our posts. So we don't know who's listening. Just throw that one.
Just
Um,
saying.
yeah, just saying, just saying. But what is our tuning in before acting actually mean for us? Because everybody is different from what their inner voice tells them. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Hmm. I think that the key piece that you said, and it's such an important one, is that piece around tuning in
Mm,
before taking action. Now,
yeah.
tuning in before taking action can be as simple and as quick as simply putting your hand on your heart, taking a deep breath, and then responding, and then saying yes or no. But it's that intuitively guided is also to understand and be aware of how do you access your intuitive wisdom. Because to your
Mm,
point, Deb, we all receive it differently,
yeah.
right? For some of us, we might feel it's in the pit of your stomach. Other people might feel like they just know, or they hear something, or they right, or they see something.
Mm.
It's and actually it can also be a whole combination of those, right?
Or all of the above. Yeah, and I think that which makes me just go to another tip and is about find your way,
Yeah, that's
not
what I was saying. Be aware of how you
yeah,
access it.
and when even when you see other people, you can see them and see how they do it and go, oh yeah, but don't compare that. Oh, they get to hear it or they get to see it. Like stop comparing yourself to others because their beautiful, intuitively guided ways are their ways. They've
Mhm.
molded that and created that for their life, their experiences, and you can just look and appreciate them for their one. And this is what you've got. Don't go, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that type thing. Does it? Because then you're in an ugly space when you're comparing from that.
Well, yeah. So we don't want to compare. I'm putting that as a separate tip altogether. Don't compare. But here's the
Well,
thing, and I
acknowledge, I guess.
yes,
You see it,
acknowledge.
but acknowledge. Yeah.
Uh, but what I think I've talked about this on previous episodes. I know you and I've talked about this before. In what I teach, because this is kind of my wheelhouse. This is what I do is I teach people how to get in touch with their intuition and how to trust it. Oh, that's another tip right there, trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
But there are 9 different avenues for us to receive our insights. And the truth is, every one of us has access to all 9 of those. However, as spiritual beings, as intuitively guided leaders, we generally choose our own favored 2, sometimes 3,
Mhm.
but generally speaking, it's 2. And so if your favored way is uh, you feel it in your stomach and maybe you just know,
Mhm.
or you feel it. Maybe you get your spidey senses like your tingles. Like you often talk about goosebumps,
Mm.
right? That's intuitive guidance right there, right?
Yeah.
So to your point also is don't compare, simply acknowledge. Know that if you see it in somebody else, it's because it's possible for you, but it's not your favored way.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I remember having a tarot card reading by this beautiful tarot card reader. And her and I were talking about the ways we received our own insights and our because I'm a tarot card reader also. And she was clairvoyant, meaning she saw things, she saw visions. And I remember saying, oh, I would so love to be able to do that. Whereas I'm what's called clairaudient. I hear things. It lands, or the words just land. And but you know what was really funny? she was really jealous of me.
Oh,
Oh, I've always wanted to be able to do that. So we just giggled, like, yep.
I love that. But you know what? I'm just going to say you're both evolved as a person that you both went, oh, look what you've got. Oh, look what I've got. Instead of, I want that. I'm going to have that
Yes.
into an ugly spiral, if I
Yes.
was to say that. You know, it's
Yeah,
just like you're both like, oh, I want each other's, but look what we get to do. Look,
I
look, look,
know.
look.
And it was
In
just a giggle. It
a
was
beautiful
fun.
way. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
But let's unpack the trust piece a
trust,
little bit more.
trust. Yeah.
I think it is such an important part is that even if, so sometimes you might get an intuitive hit, but not
Yeah.
the full answer, right?
Yeah.
You might get the intuitive hit that this is the next step, but you don't get the intuitive hit on these are the next 5 steps. So trust says, I see or I receive the guidance for this part. Does that make sense?
It does, and I was just thinking, as soon as you put the foot off the pedal, you know, when you're like when you're so desperate, um, wisdom doesn't come in the desperation. Wisdom comes in the stillness.
Yes,
And so
exactly.
when you're so desperate and you don't get an answer, it's frustrating and you get cranky and that is broken trust, completely broken trust. And I'm going to label it broken trust. But when you're actually just going, you know what will be. And I hate hearing that saying. I'm just going to say, you know,
She
what
doesn't
will
like
be.
that one.
And I'm like, I'll fricking show you what will be, will be. You know, I can definitely, there's trigger words in me. You know, I'm a human. But having that trust, and it's a self-trust, is actually that, you know, I know my intuition is going to get clearer when I just don't become desperate and spiral. And it just becomes more strengthened within
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
And you know, because we do struggle to trust ourselves sometimes. Oh, this happened last time, and because of this is what happened. No, there was something out of alignment last time, and it's perfect. You know, it's all on the way, not in the way. But having that self-trust and acknowledging it,
yeah.
when you can live in true trust, and I would say I don't live in true trust. I definitely live in a 70, 75, 80% trust of things because things come in, I'm like, no, this is not
Yeah.
going to work. Like that. But but there is a large portion of trust that I go, okay, just let it go, let it go. And what happens? You get rewarded when you do take your foot off and you're not in that desperation. The universe, I don't know what, well, source or whatever you want to call it, whatever, just goes, okay, she's ready now.
Yeah,
She's ready. Let's
yeah.
give her this. And I believe in that. And when, yeah, I find I don't get answers in the desperation, but when I sit in that trust is so vital.
It really is. And this is a really good point though, because that piece around the desperation, that makes me feel like, you know what, you know the saying white knuckling? You
Oh,
white knuckle
yeah.
it, right? So
Yeah,
that's what desperation feels like to me. It's like white knuckling it, like I gotta keep just hold everything. And yet when we surrender and just say, it's okay, that is when like you say, then in your universe says, oh, I've got the answers right here.
yeah.
You can
Oh,
drop
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. She's finally woken up. Duh.
Yeah. So
But
sometimes all we can be doing that is saying, I've got this.
yeah,
Even if even
it's as simple as that.
yeah.
I've got this. And because even if you don't feel you've got it, when you say it, your
Hmm.
body can feel it.
Yes.
But when we're talking about trust, I want to add another tip in there is about that you know, being in the stillness.
Hmm.
Because that is, like I said, the stillness is where the wisdom comes.
Yeah.
So if you can just take a moment to pause and reflect and look inward, you know, 30 seconds, a minute,
Hmm.
just having that, well, without actually putting time on it, I'm going to say, because then you're not restricting, but just sitting in that pause and listen inwards, that's where your wisdom is going to come and that's where things flow.
Hmm.
So, and that before you speak or act.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
from that, and you can say it's more the feminine over the masculine. You can label it whatever you want, but if you can sit and appreciate that moment, that moment, just then things flow easier. I just want to make that as a separate tip.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. And this is more of the feminine, and regardless if you're man or male or female, this is a feminine attribute. This is the being attribute. If you don't, I see some people don't like saying masculine, feminine. So it's okay, fine. We'll just say being and doing. Being
Yeah.
is more of that surrender, that being in the feminine. I'll say it
Yeah.
quietly. And then
Oh,
the doing, it's the doing and the overthinking. So thinking processes are masculine also, because that's the thrust forward. But we do have to, and to get into flow, like you're saying, wisdom comes. Do you know what that also made me think of when you said that about wisdom comes when we're sitting in silence? It also makes me think of something that I've often said before is when we're looking for an answer or a solution or a resolution, it's looking for us too. Because you
repeat that
can't,
because that's actually vital. I'm going to get you to repeat that because that's actually a whole thing on its own.
it is. So when we're looking for an answer, a solution, a direction, resolution,
Hmm.
it's looking for us too. And
Yeah.
this comes from that wisdom, and I believe this is a Einstein wisdom, is that one can't exist without the other. A
Mm.
question cannot exist without the answer already being in existence. So
Yeah.
if you're saying, I need a solution to this problem, the solution already has to exist. Just because you don't know it or you haven't got clarity on it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so that's why it's so, so vital to create moments of pause and stillness and kind of go, okay, I surrender to the fact that it is in existence. So maybe I have to get out my own way and allow it to drop in to my awareness. Isn't
Yeah.
that one just feels so much more effortless ease when we can
It
get into that.
does. I just went, oh, it's like you're giving yourself permission. And I think that's the other thing is, you're giving yourself permission to do what feels right for you at this perfect. So maybe that's a whole tip on its own. If you're looking at your intuitively guided leadership style, give yourself permission to pause, reflect, dig in, lean out. Just you're the boss of you again.
Yeah, yeah.
But give yourself permission for you.
And again, that's going because these tips, we really encourage you to take these tips and run them through your own filter
Mm,
because you giving yourself permission is going to look very different to me giving myself permission, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it means like, what does that mean? Do you have to do a brain dump and write down all your thoughts? Do you have to
Hmm.
go and cuddle your cat or your dog? Or do you have to go for a walk? Or do you have to shift your schedule a wee bit so that you can actually say, oh, I've got 10 minutes there. I can do it. I can pause for a moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
make
it's kind of
make
like,
time for you and your intuition to grow and nurture and feed it and your soul. If we're not making time for ourselves, no one else is going to make time for us.
no,
Going to
nope.
be very no, even if they make us a cup of tea or something, they're still not making time for us. It's us who has to have the make time for
You actually
ourselves.
have to sit and drink it. So that's you like even
Exactly.
if somebody brought it to you.
I think, when I think about this, I was thinking about and with the leadership and I had a thing earlier this year where I felt I got battered and beaten in a
Mhm.
leadership situation and I threw some punches. Don't think I went down lightly and I didn't go down, but there was moments of that and now I can tell you now my intuition was not playing a part in it. I was full masculine.
Yeah.
You do this. This is how it's done. I was so fixated on it, and it just caused two punching bags against two punching bags. In fact, it actually segregated things. I know you're all laughing, going, no, Deborah, that wouldn't be you. But it definitely wouldn't be Moira, but yeah, okay, we can see that thing. But my intuition was definitely I didn't listen to it. I just went full on human resources mode. This has to be done this way. You will do it this way. There was no listen to each person and appreciate that. So when I think about this, if you're looking at true intuition leadership, you know when to read the room and to pivot in a project when it feels necessary. And how to handle conflict because you're not taking things personally, and when to lean in and lean out and just appreciate. So there's logic, and then there's ego, humble. There's a lot of things. So even just be aware when things start going chaotic. Go, okay, what did I do to cause this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it back to me? What can I do to change this again? So it's all about you, but being aware that it's not fixed in concrete. It's things flow. You know, if things are getting chaotic, where am I out of alignment? There's all those little internal self checks, and be okay with taking accountability. Like instead of going, you did this, you did this, you did this to everybody else. Actually, what did I do to bring this upon myself?
Hmm.
Does
But
that
then
all make? How
it
many
it
gazillion tips in that one?
well, I took 3.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to what you just said, that final part about taking accountability, because not only when we do something or don't do something and we're completely ignoring our own intuition, that's
Mm,
okay. That's okay. It's just one end of the spectrum to the other. One end of the spectrum is completely engaged and embracing your intuitive nature and really taking time to pause and reflect and act from that. And then on the other end of the spectrum is completely masculine driven leadership styles. To hell with it. I'm just doing this and it's your fault and you did this and you didn't do that. And
yeah.
when you can, if that's going on, it's okay. There's nothing what I've just said is right or wrong. It's
Mm,
just choice. So if you would like to change your way of doing it, I invite you to look at shifting to neutrality, knowing that on one side is complete access to your intuition, and on the other side is complete access to your logic, your doing, your saying, I'm not going to ask or outsource or depend on anybody. That's on the
yeah.
other end of the spectrum. When you come to neutrality, then you could find the gift. Because
Mm,
sometimes we have to go through experiences of not that in order to then say, oh yeah, but I much rather this. Do you
mm,
know what I mean?
I
This
do.
is about, there's gifts in every experience that we have. Should we choose to allow ourselves to lean into it, right?
So, well, I was thinking when you said that, when chaos hits, we blame others,
Yeah.
then we blame ourselves, and then there is no blame, and we evolve, and that's when you've come to that neutrality.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
and I love that to go, oh, it's them, it's them, it's them. Ah, it's me, it's me, it's me. Actually, it just is.
It just
And that
is.
just is. And how can we move and flow from here? And that's where you evolve and you have that neutrality. And I think that's, when you feel that finger blaming, that pointing, and they say one finger out and three fingers back at you, you know, from that. But if you look at that and go, oh, where am I in that blame game? I'm blaming others still. Okay, it's time to blame myself because we're human. Oh,
Mhm.
I shouldn't have done it this way, and I could have done it this way in order. But then they did that, and then it's actually right now. It's time to let the others and self go,
Yeah.
neutralize this, and evolve. And that's where the intuitive leadership comes in. When you get to that, evolve
Mhm.
instead of the hard yakka.
I think that's such an important part too, because in that, unpacking that, what you just did is the realization that we actually are always doing the best we can with what's going on, what we're
Yeah.
doing, what's going. And so it's, I actually have a client that we often have this conversation with, is that you always were doing the best you could because he had such a hard time with it. Oh, no, I could have done this. I could have. Actually, there's 2 people that I have conversations like this with, because it's this, um, they set the bar so high and then
Mm.
they look at previous versions of them and say, yeah, but I could have done this. I could have pushed just a little bit further and let that go. Just
You,
breathe.
you can
All is
feel that.
well. Yeah.
I I I I I love it. I love it because I was just thinking, when I have blamed others, I'm definitely not sitting in my heart. And one of the things I have a little a few gazillion post-it notes around my office, and they're all little love heart ones. And one of them is, if you're looking at embracing your leadership, intuitively guided leadership style, one of the things I try and do is may your head and heart speak with one voice.
That's a teabag
And
quote.
I was just going to say, I bet you that was a teabag quote.
It is a teabag quote.
And I love that because it just goes, okay, Deborah, are you really, I can hear your voice. Are you in the doing, the being, or are you actually listening, or are you appreciating? And if I can combine them both to may your head and heart speak with one voice, when you sit in that, you've mastered leadership style.
100%.
And because you're not rigid in one particular way, it just is. And I love that part there.
So the next tip that just landed right on the heels of that is being curious.
Yes.
Being curious is a beautiful way of embracing an intuitively guided leadership style because it's not attached to anything. There's no rigidity of, if I ask you to do this, I'm going to be curious of how does that land for you, and what do you going to request in order to empower you to take care of it or do it.
Yeah.
And then be curious as to how does it land with you when people say, yes, I can do it, and here's the deadline, and no, I can't do it, and this is how come. Have some curiosity, because that allows so much more flow, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and when you're curious, you're not beating yourself up would be my thing.
Yeah.
You're
You're
actually
also going into, how does this make me feel about me?
yeah. Yeah,
Right?
it's yeah, totally again, yeah. It's a flow way.
Yes.
A
And we've talked about this recently on a previous episode about curiosity. There's a sense of play. There's a lightheartedness with it,
yeah.
which I think is really important, especially in leadership style, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. Well, when we think about this embracing an intuitively guided leadership style, set your intention of what you want to get out of the project or what the outcome, but be able to be that flexible. And I talked a little bit about pivot, but also just check in and just go, is this actually coming from a past story because they were a-holes last time, so I can't use my intuitive, so they're gonna, because they were horrible last time, I've got a story attached to them because they were horrible, it's going to be happening again. Like, just check if this is a past story, a fear that you've got, if this is something, when you start to notice things. So just tune in would be, again, tune in and just go, is this mine? Did I have something beforehand? Why is this not flowing? After setting your intention, because our intention is pure, when your intention is pure, but also know sometimes our intention, other people have intentions as well, and they collide.
So that's the have an intention, but have it with a light hold, I like to say, right?
And the curiosity. Back to the tip before, have that. What's my intention? But I'm curious to know what it actually looks like, or I'm curious to know what it feels like, or I'm curious to know how people respond to this, because then it puts in a beautiful, not here's my intention. This is how it has to be. And because I know that one in me, and that didn't flow quite like that. It became Deborah's the principal of the office here, and you will do what I say.
You will do what she says.
Yeah, there wasn't that curiosity. Right. I haven't got time for this. It was that.
Right.
You're listening to Deliciously Motivated Mindset with Deborah and Moira, here to help listeners unlock their full potential so they can thrive, not just survive. They've shared some very powerful insights so far, so it's time to take a moment to breathe, reflect, and jot down any key takeaways. What's one piece of advice that stands out to apply right away? Before wrapping up, Deborah and Moira would love to hear from everyone. Reach out with thoughts, questions, or feedback, and drop your favorite tip from today's episode. They're inspired to see how listeners are putting these insights into practice. Let's dive back in and finish strong.
But don't
you
you
know.
think that you had to go through something like that just to have your own sense of
Oh,
contrast, right?
oh my gosh, did I what? I'm so thankful for that.
Hmm.
I look back at that and I don't have it, my body doesn't have a physical reaction. I look back at that and I go, well, you took it for the team well and truly, and what would you do differently? Like, yeah, at the time I didn't appreciate it, but I can fully say that was one experience that I'm thankful for that allowed me to look at this because I do more in my business, I do more intuitive
Hmm.
leadership.
Yeah,
But then I became very rigid and it wasn't my style.
right.
It was the old style that, I shut that down to get shite done. It was a doing. It was a doing. But I'm so thankful for that because that molded me to look at things differently.
Yeah.
I came out and went, okay, what's going on? This is not you.
Hmm.
This is not who you want to be. This is, what's going on. And it allowed me to ponder on what leadership looks like for me, but also how other people want to receive my leadership, what it looks like for them and that if that so it was a beautiful, definitely the curiosity, but the curiosity wasn't curiosity, it was like deal with it, Deborah. There
Right.
was no curiosity. Curiosity to me seems playful and fun.
Lighthearted. Yeah.
I wasn't curious. I was like, get in and figure this frickin' thing out right now
Right.
because we haven't got time for this. So mine was boot camp curiosity.
But don't you think, because the tip that I would add to this is gratitude. So
Oh,
having gratitude for
yeah.
your choices, for the decisions, for the way you did it, because I was thinking in your description of what you went through is that don't you think that that was part of you reading the room? You reading the room says I have to operate from this standpoint, using this role or using this leadership style, right?
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Actually, only now.
Because as you were describing it, it's like, well, you just played a role because that's how it had to be done
I
in that
actually,
instant.
yeah, hadn't thought about that one. And you're right. I did read the room and went, this is what's needed right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
huh,
hand on your heart now and breathe it in because that is
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. I got
See,
little tears in my eyes.
I see that. Embrace it. See, you were always an intuitively guided leader.
Oh,
And that is too, that sometimes we react in certain ways. Like I can think of examples where I've had to take on a role of being very, actually, this is funny.
mm,
Um, where if I've had to raise my voice or yell, people that know me can't believe that I could do that
yeah.
until I've had to be in situations where I have. And then it shocks everybody they're like, I've never heard her scream like that. But it's the same thing, is it doesn't mean I am being that way. It means I needed to do that in order to create change or to support the people that I was leading at that moment, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that in itself, although that wouldn't be my choice to operate like that on a long long pattern, right? But it's like, nope, it's just an instance for that. And so I can still come back into gratitude of, yep, I can play the game, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, I was just thinking as you're saying that, my partner coaches sport, and
Hmm.
one of the things she does is she doesn't yell. She doesn't yell on the sideline. She doesn't yell. And I'm like, why are you not yelling at these girls or these boys? And she's like, they're not going to hear me. All they're going to hear is me yell. So it's easier to wait till
Right,
like, and they're in their zone. So it's
right,
easy for me not to yell and disrupt their head pattern. They know what they've done. They don't need me to be yelling on the sign going, and
right,
but for the first half a dozen trainings and games and everything, they didn't know what she was thinking because she just wouldn't yell. And they were like, oh my God, we've done so bad, because their last 4 or 5 coaches would yell at them and they go, oh,
they
okay.
know right away. Yeah.
And she has a whole different style that she's just like, come on, girls, what's going on? What do you think? And she's really
She's
listening to them.
actually,
And
that's the definition of coaching though, isn't it?
I know. I know, instead of you do this and you do that,
Yeah, yeah,
do this, and but she's had to. So now she's gone to a new team this year, and she actually, one of the very first things she said, "Let me tell you a little bit about me. I won't yell.
Right.
If
So
you hear
right,
me yell,
leading that way.
I
There's
won't
something wrong
yell.
with me.
Yeah, if this is my stuff, if I yell, this is all and they were just like, wow, is she, is she okay? Because they've had so much, and so it just now allowed the team, and she's coaching girls this year, the team to actually go, okay, we understand her, instead
Mm.
of, oh, why didn't she yell at us? Why didn't she told us to do whatever? And
Mm.
she says, and I don't coach on the game. She said, I can't coach on the game because we're in it. We're there. We're
Yeah.
not going to listen. And I hear that and I go, that's a leadership style.
Hmm.
That's a beautiful leadership style is actually, let's not correct a gazillion people right now in front of everybody. Let's just let them feel it. And then we can talk back and we can go, what was going on for you? And well, that works for her situation. Not all the time does it work for everybody. So again, it's that pivot, but having that, this is how it feels for me. Just
But what
as
I
a
really
beautiful.
like, so there's such an empowering vibe with that. But you know what it
Mm,
was reminding me of, and you know this about me, is that that's my tarot card reading style also. That if I've said this so many times, if you've had a tarot card reading, you have heard me say this, is that if I ever say something that does not make sense to you, so if I say, okay, Deb, this I see such and such happening, or such and such coming in, or such and such a potential, and you kind of go, no freaking way, or it's so outlandish, then it's not for you. It's actually it's for me.
yeah.
Because and just how you were describing that coaching style, it does need to resonate. I think as an
Mm,
intuitively guided leader, it's so important to have the guidance come through in ways that resonate. Otherwise, it could be that it's a prediction, or being yelled at for something, or saying you did this or you didn't do that. Um, that's all punishment based. That's not empowering.
mm,
I think that this kind of embracing this whole idea of a intuitively guided leader is that everyone gets it and says, "Yep, I know I screwed that up." Or like taking it
yeah.
back to the sports, I screwed up the pass there or something, but it's not that I did something wrong. It's just that's what happened. Next,
Yeah.
into the next phase, right?
Well, you're teaching that a true leader teaches them to fish, not hand them the fish.
Yes.
And I know when my daughter was playing sport and she'd get into the car and she'd go, "What did you think about the game?" And I go, well done, you won, or oh, it's a shame you lost, or whatever. But what did you think about it? Because she played water polo, and yes, I was a water polo. I'm going to say a master. I could play water polo, and I knew all the skills, and I knew everything, and it
Mhm.
hasn't changed since when I was young.
Right.
But I'm not there to tell my daughter, you missed this pass, you did this, your players dropped the ball, or that's not for me. It's what did you see? Because
Yeah.
her eyes, her perception, she's in. She doesn't want me to critique her. And it's
No.
not my place to critique her. It's my place to go, what did you see? She's like, well, I could have done that better, or I didn't do this, and my team, but I can see the value, and it's just giving them that voice. So that true leadership, intuitively guided leadership style, you don't have to hang on, you don't have to prove you're a master in the room,
No.
would be it. You're actually a true intuitively guided is you're a master without the pom-poms and the lights.
But it's leadership, it's leading with, not over,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Leading within, yeah.
Yeah.
Then, yeah. My hand
Her
without
hands like,
powering. Yeah.
yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah,
trying to do this
like
without overpowering.
overbearing, overpowering. And that's what you're saying is like, I'm the master, I'm the boss, I'm the
Yeah.
leader.
Yeah.
No, it's power with, not
Yeah.
power over.
Yeah.
Overpower.
Yeah.
Power of words. Such an important Actually, and that's such an important part too with intuitively guided leadership is to always, always recognize the humongous power we have with our words,
Mm.
right? So if we are using like, oh, you always get it wrong, you never do this right,
Cancel, cancel, cancel.
totally.
I've just realized the time we've got to wrap this up, but I just want to say the four agreements.
Yes.
Because if you're looking at embracing your intuitively guided leadership style, the 4 agreements are just a beautiful process of that. And as I say that, I have to get them out because I know them in my head, but when I go to quote them, and we get them, Deborah puts them in all sorts of order. Anyway, number 1, be impeccable with your word.
Yep.
Like that's intuitively guided leadership style. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally.
No, it's not
Again,
about you.
don't make assumptions. Again, and always do your best. They sum up. They sum up having that intuitively guided leadership
They
style.
really do. They really do. They thread into so many. In fact, probably every one of our episodes, we can usually bring them in somehow.
Trust, gratitude, lean in.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on this person to give us the same tips. Like, can you just share those tips so it helps us so we can go, right, here's our standard 5 that we talk about each time.
4 agreements is one of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's it. But let's wrap this up because we can go on a beautiful journey with this one, and Moira already made me cry. So so we're going in. So grab that note-taking device if you didn't before, and we're going to sum them up. The one I had,
Uh-oh. What's your list like?
no, you're my listener, is tune in before taking action.
Yeah.
Would be just listen and feel before jumping.
And you also said read the room when you said that one.
I'll read the room.
Yeah.
I spoke so much I forgot to write. Surprise! Here we
Not you.
read the room. Yeah.
The next one I've put is to be aware of how you receive your intuitive hits. So don't compare and see how other people get theirs. That's that wee story I told you about my tarot card reading friend. She's clairvoyant and I'm clairaudient. And it's fun because the truth is that we all can, but what's your choice? So just be aware. How do you receive your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, your high whispers from your higher self? Such an important part.
And Moira said there's 9 different avenues.
Mm-hmm.
So just being aware of that, there's 9 different things you're going to compare yourself to,
Yeah.
and you don't have time for that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because you're much better exercising because these channels of receiving your inner guidance, I think of them as muscles. So the more you exercise them, the more dependable, the more trust, the more you get them. So if you start diluting that because, oh, I want to be able to see, oh, I want to hear, oh, I want to feel. No.
Yeah.
Find your favorite ones and exercise them.
And if you don't like it, go to the next one because there's 9 of them. But it will be very clear. It will be very specific. The next one I have is trust.
Yes.
And trust is a whole podcast on its own, really. But to cut this down, Moira says, I've got this.
Yeah.
And just as simple as that, I've got this. Even if you don't feel you've got it, or I'm convincing myself, as soon as you say I've got this, hand on heart, you can do anything. I've got this. And you're making a declaration, a statement to yourself, to your soul, to whoever listens or sees. You don't have to say it aloud. I've got this. And the trust just happens. It just falls into place when you commit to that.
I just realized that you can also add, so if you're saying I've got this, you could also add another one of my favorites is all is well in my world.
Oh yes, that's a lovely one too.
Yeah. Even if you've got that wee demon that says, no, I see all this discombobulation.
Who are you joking? Cancel.
Yes. The next one I've got is, you said this one, I really liked it, where you said we need, in order to embrace an intuitively guided leadership style, we need to take time to pause, reflect, look inward, because wisdom does come. So there's this beautiful being nature here, right?
Yeah. The next one I have is give yourself permission to be you. Give yourself permission for you. Give yourself permission. You. That's it. Give yourself permission. You are the boss of you. Again, but give yourself permission to do what feels right for you. If you want to step away, step away. If you want to lean in, lean in. If you want to, you know,
Run a
engage,
marathon.
yeah, run a minute. Just give yourself permission that feels right and fills your soul up. Your
Mhm.
lights the fire within you, but not an aggressive fire, but a beautiful flame
Yeah,
that feels right.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
The next one I have is when I was talking about the realization that for when you're asking for a solution to a problem or you're asking a question, to always remember that the solution, the answer already exists. One
yeah,
never exists without the other. And just because you don't know it or hasn't arrived for you, that's when we do need to get into that pause or that giving yourself permission to just take a little bit of a moment
yeah,
contemplation of like, if I realize the answer is already there, then maybe I just need to focus on my breathing or just allow it or say, okay, answer, come and land, and
yeah.
just allow it to come in, right?
Yeah, God, these are great little tips here we've got. Now, this is where I've gone a little bit discombobulated, but we'll give this one a go. I've got read the room down here.
Mhm.
I've got that read the room there, but I've also got pivot on the task, meaning when I say read the room, just decide if this feels like I need to lean in or lean out or do that, which is pretty much exactly what Moira just said
Mhm.
in a different way.
I
But
think I think that that came up because you were talking about the conflict situation that you were in.
oh yeah, that could have been that one. Yeah. And but be flexible. Be
Mhm.
flexible. Yeah.
Yep. The next one I have is to always remember nothing is fixed in concrete. It's always flowing and moving and shifting and pivot. Like that's one of your favorite words there too. Is that even if you have it fixed in your head of like, I know how this is going to go this way. That's an assumption, by the way.
Yeah.
But it, even if you say, I would prefer it to go this way, realize it can change, can turn on a dime in any moment, and that's okay.
And I'm going to say 2020 turned on a
Yep.
change. So it's not just it's outside things that can take control as well. Not just it has to be this way and rigid.
Yeah.
Just just go, 2020 took us on a sideways journey.
Yep.
Sideways journey. I say sideways because I don't believe I was prepared for it, but thankful it's done and we're now 5 years on. 5 years on.
I know, isn't that amazing? 5 years on.
5 years on where the world opened their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the next one I have here, and I've got, is accountability. So I think I've got a couple of missing ones here, but accountability. So be honest and real.
Yeah.
Like be honest and real with yourself. Take accountability to what's said to you, what's said out of your mouth, how you're feeling, you're acting. Just take accountability and be honest and real because that's the only way you're going to have a level of evolution. And this is where I talked about first we blame others, then we blame ourselves, and then we actually go, okay, I can see the beauty in that. I can see the gratitude. I can see that neutrality. And that's where we evolve, is
Mhm.
when we step out of that blaming others and blaming self and just see that. But be accountable to your actions, decisions, and emotions because it's a
Yep.
lot easier in life.
That is what's required of you. And from there, I said I wrote down the to do the best you can with what you know and with what you can do, and also acknowledge that you always have been.
Mm,
That's when I talked about the different client conversations that I have with two clients in particular that they don't. This one, it takes a bit of reminding. No, you did it. You still did the best you could with what you know. Because you see, that actually can turn into a bit of a self-abuse because what people tend to do is that they'll judge a past action based on what they know now. But they didn't know then what they know now, and that's how come I'm saying it's abusive to yourself. It's
mm,
kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I knew this now back then, but I didn't. So it's okay, let it go.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I have neutrality down here. Is that the next one you have, or
Oh, I missed that. That was when you were saying about chaos
oh,
and the self and others, yes, come to neutrality.
neutrality? And that is find the gifts in the chaos,
Yeah.
and just stepping aside and being neutral to a situation, because when you're neutral, goes back to the four agreements: don't take anything personally, be impeccable with you. But when you're neutral, you can see things a lot clearer, and you're in the eye of the storm, you're not amongst the storm.
Yes. You're not on the outer red
Yeah,
discombobulation cycles. I
tossed up and down. Yeah.
But then from there you went and referenced one of my teabag quotes and said, "May my
Yes.
head and heart speak with one voice." And really, when you're in neutrality, it can,
Yeah.
right? That was nicely timed to bring that one in.
I love that.
Yeah.
The next one was curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And Moira said, how does this make me feel about me?
Yeah.
Just be curious, because it puts a playfulness and a nice spin on maybe an icky situation.
Yeah.
And so just I'm going to be curious, what was really going on for me? What was going on for them? What was my surroundings? Did I have enough sleep? Is this the outcome we actually all wanted? Did I come in with ego brain? Like, be curious. And it's a playful way to
Yeah.
look, instead of beating yourself up,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Playful and lighthearted. It's so much nicer than
Yeah.
heavy punishment
Oh,
based. The
totally.
next one I have, and I think you said this one about setting your intention and set your pure intention. But that's when I talked a wee bit about the white knuckling things, right?
Mm,
There's like kind of like, no, set your intention, but don't be rigid, don't be too caught up on an agenda, and then flow with a
yeah.
bit of curiosity too, right?
And knowing that your past stories play a large role in that
Mhm,
as well. You know,
mhm.
oh, this happened last time, so I know I'm gonna battle it again.
Yeah.
Well, if you come from neutrality, you don't see that you're gonna battle it. You come from neutrality, you just go, oh, I get to experience a whole new way of being today. It's
Yes.
it's light. It's
Hmm.
light. And that's where you're intuitively guided. Today I'm going to do something different. Today I'm going to come and just do this.
Yep.
Um, the next one is gratitude.
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 Yes.
And this is actually where you got me crying.
That's right. It
This is where
is.
it was. That's where you
It
got me
is.
crying, because I said I didn't read the room. But Moira corrected me and said, actually, you did read the room, and that's what was needed at the time.
Yeah.
And I had a level of, actually, yes, funny, I come to neutrality over that event. Actually, I didn't come to neutrality. I went beyond neutrality. I went to full blown. Oh, thank goodness that happened, because it just gave me a bigger insight into people,
Yes.
and a boot camp learning, because I like, well, I'm not going to say I like boot camp learning, because I definitely, sometimes I like a little bit slower, but sometimes I need the wake up, and
Yes.
it eliminated so much
Mhm,
from that. Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
And be grateful, be thankful, fully thankful, not half thankful, be fully thankful for that experience. Because when you can do that, it's not going to run you, control you, lose sleep. It's done.
Mhm.
It's done. It's
Yep.
just done. You don't have to think about it anymore, apart from there's a big warmth in your heart.
Yep. Absolutely. The next one I have is about your style of leadership. That's when you talked about your partner's style of how she coaches, and I talked about my style of being a tarot card reader. Is that you're empowering and allowing the guidance or the suggestions to be received and to resonate. So as a leader, it's so important to allow those we are leading or those we are impacting or guiding to receive it. And that's my point, was I had said that I always say, if I'm doing a reading on you and something I say doesn't land for you, it doesn't resonate, then it's not about you, it's about me. And so
Yeah.
that's something that's very important to allow everybody. That's the whole part around leaders who power with, not
Mm,
power over.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Power with, not power over.
Mhm.
Um, I've got self-talk here.
Mm. The
I don't know
power
what
of word. That's when we talked about the power of words.
yeah, I was like self-talk. Yeah. And cancel, cancel, cancel. But the
Yes.
power of words do sit intuitively within you. and
Yeah.
and they are there for you to guide you, to
Yep.
show you.
Yep.
But be careful of the self-talk.
Yes, that's when we do cancel. What? The last one I have is the 4 agreements. And
Oh,
we didn't say it this time, but we like to say
oh,
just for today. Just for today, I'm going to be impeccable with my word. Just for today, I'm not going to take anything personal. Just for today, I will not make any assumption. And just for today, I'm just going to do my best. Such a
yeah.
lovely way to wrap up these ideas on
I
intuitively
know.
guided leadership.
Just for today and tomorrow and the day after and the day after.
Yeah, but you
But
don't
it's
think about tomorrow and the day after. You
no,
just for today, just think
just
about today.
focusing on just for this morning or just for this evening or just because it's just so it's attainable.
Hmm.
Be the word when I think about just for today.
Because there's that I've got this right there.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
it's just for today, I've got this.
yeah. I've got this totally. But boy, oh boy, what a beautiful podcast! What a beautiful conversation today. Very different from our last one, and it'll be very different for our next one too.
Yep.
But what a gorgeous one. Thank you, Moira. But
Thank you,
you know
lovely.
how I'm going to sign this off, everybody. I'm going to ask the same question. Are you playing the game of life to the fullest? When we think about embracing your intuitively guided leadership style, are you playing the game of life to the fullest?
Hmm.
So I want you to make a note now, because you've listened today, I'd love you to answer what's your highest priority action step you're going to do today to achieve this goal? What is your highest priority action step you're going to do today to achieve this goal?
Yes.
And let's bring it back to our heart. Let's bring it back to what's important to us. And let's embrace our intuitively guided leadership style and flow and flow with it because it's
Mhm.
all on the way, not in the way.
Yes. One of my favorite quote, that one.
Yay. So if you like today, the next step we'd love you to do is actually share this, engage this conversation with people,
Mhm.
engage it, share it and say to them, what was your favorite tip, and engage and open up that beautiful leadership style of actually listening and being present with others and find what they get, because you're going to have a different understanding of who they are when they say this is their tip that they really gelled with over your tip. So thank you everybody for today. We appreciate you coming and listening. And you'll hear us on the next podcast. But thank you, Moira, for today. Thanks for pivoting me back to my heart and something that I thought I had a full completion over. So thank you for just casually dropping it in. That made me
Just
go, whoa.
plop.
And
My
and
pleasure.
it came from intuitive guided leadership.
Conversation. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And her head and heart spoke with one voice. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite. Throw that
There
little
you
tip in
go.
there. And thank you, Internet. And thank you, listeners, for showing up. If there's anything in particular you'd like us to cover, drop us a line. Let us
Yeah.
know.
We'd love to hear from you for sure.
Yeah, we're here for you. So thank you. That's us signing off on our deliciously motivated mindset conversation / podcast with Debz, that's me, and Moira, that's
That's
her.
me. Her. That's me.
It's her.
Thank you, dear
very
Deb.
much, people.
Thanks, listeners. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into Deliciously Motivated Mindset with Deborah and Moira, where the mission is to help listeners unlock their full potential and thrive, not just survive. As the episode comes to a close, they trust you've gained some powerful insights. If you haven't already, take a moment to reflect on one key takeaway that you'll apply right away. Before we wrap things up, Deborah and Moira would love to hear from you. Reach out with thoughts, questions, or feedback and drop your favorite tip from today's episode. They're inspired to see how you're putting your insights into action. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep thriving.